This is the video on example 4 from lesson 2 in the grade 7 module 4 book. This is found on page 9. All right, in this one, Zoe inflated 24 balloons for the decorations at the middle school dance. If Zoe inflated 15% of the total number of balloons inflated for the dance, how many balloons are there total? Solve the problem using the percent formula and verify your answer using a visual model. So we will follow directions kind of to a T. It says solve the problem using the percent formula. Let's go ahead, let's get that written down first. So that formula is that the part equals the percent as a decimal multiplied by the whole amount. So now we just have to kind of interpret this information they gave us and figure out what information we have. We have the information that Zoe inflated 24 balloons, but they also tell us that Zoe only inflated 15% of the total number of balloons. So the balloon she inflated, that number 24, is only 15% of it. Remember, 100% represents everything, so she did not inflate all of the balloons. So this 24 is going to represent our part. So for part, we'll put the number 24. Drop down our equal sign. Now, percent as a decimal, they do give us a percent. They give us 15%, but remember that's in percent form because it has the percent symbol behind it. So we got to do a little sidebar here. 15%. We need to turn that into a fraction first and then into a decimal from there. To turn it into a fraction, you need a fraction bar. Every percent is going to have 100 in the denominator, and then the number in front of the symbol, percent symbol that is, goes on top. So 15 over 100. You can go ahead, you can do 15 divided by 100 in your calculator, and you will get 0.15. All right, so our percent as a decimal will be that 0.15. I'll go ahead, I'll drop that down. Next up, we have multiplied by the whole. So the whole is the amount we do not know. We don't know the total number of balloons, but we can find it out. Since we don't know it, we need a variable. We use a variable for an unknown amount. So we'll say let T equal the total number of balloons. So instead of the whole, we'll put the letter T. And I always put that hook underneath it that way. We don't mix it up with any plus signs. All right, so we have to find out the total number of balloons. Like we just said, that's represented by T. Therefore, I just want to get T equals a number. If I want to get T equals a number, that means I want to get T all by itself. So I'm going to have to use that algebra that we learned a while ago. I'm going to have to think, how do I move this 0.15? Well, it's being multiplied, so I have to use division. I'll divide by 0.15 on this side, and long story short, we know that these cancel out. On this side, 24 divided by 0.15. Because whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So we'll go ahead, we'll type that into our calculator, and we find out that 24 divided by 0.15 is 160. On this side, we're left with T all by itself. So right now, that makes me think that the total amount of balloons is 160. Remember, we always got to end with a statement that shows that we know what we're talking about. So they want us to verify our answer using a visual model. We'll do that real quick. That visual model is going to be very similar to what we did in the examples in the last lesson. So there we have it. I drew a tape, the beginning of a tape diagram. I'm going to I'll put the percent up here this time, 100% down at this end. And this end therefore represents 0%. Now let's think about what else we have going on here. So we know the total number of balloons. We found out it was 160. So up here, just to bring you up to speed, this is the percent side of it, and this is the amount. The bottom numbers will represent the amount. So 100% of the balloons we found out is 160. Let's just make sure that holds true when we check it with a visual model. They told us that 24 balloons was 15%. Now, if I break this into tens like this, I would have 10%, 20%. So we're missing 15. Again, we're missing 15. I figure I'd put in the rest of them also 30%, 40%, 50, and so on. 15 is going to be halfway in between 10 and 20. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to throw a line halfway in between there. There we go. Now let's go ahead, let's kind of break down what we have. So we know that we have 160 total. The solid lines broke this tape diagram into 10 total pieces. 160 divided by 10 means that each amount, each space, represents 16 out of the total balloons. So this would be 16, this would be 32, 48, and there we go. I figured I'd fill in the rest. All multiples of 16. We have 48, 64, 80, 96, 112, 128, and 144. Finally, 160 being the total. All right, so really back to what these dashed lines though. These dashed lines, I put that there because 15% is exactly halfway in between 10 and 20%. Now, we want to look here and we want to say, okay, well, just like 15% is perfectly halfway in between 10 and 20%, our number right here for the amount of 15% needs to be right in between 16 and 32. So 16 and 32, you can kind of count it off on your fingertips. The number that's perfectly in between there would be 24. Because I'm looking at this, if a full box is 16, half of a box is 8. So 8, 16, 16 plus 8 gives us 24. And that checks out with what we were given in the beginning. So 24 verifies that we did our equation correctly. Okay, moving along, we'll do example 5. Example 5, we will use the formula, the percent formula, to answer this question. So the question is, Haley is making admission tickets to the middle school dance. So far she has made 112 tickets. Her plan is to make 320 tickets. What percent of the admission tickets has Haley produced so far? Solve the problem using the percent formula and verify your answer using a visual model. So we'll go ahead, we will get that percent formula back in there again. There we go, we have the part equals percent as a decimal multiplied by the whole. Now we just have to interpret this correctly to make sure we understand what we're given and what we don't know. So it says so far she has made 112 tickets. We're looking for the percent of admission tickets she has produced so far. So she planned to make 320. She only made part of it, which is that 112. We can kind of fill in based on what I just said. The part she made so far is 112. So we'll fill that in and drop that down. The total she plans on making will be 320. So the total is the whole. That leaves us with the percent as our unknown amount. I'm going to put P. So over here, we'll just say let P equal the percent of tickets made so far. All right, so we're trying to find out the percent because that's the question being asked. That means we want to get P by itself now. So to get P by itself, again, I see we're multiplying that by 320. I'll do the opposite where I'll divide by 320. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. These will cancel out. We'll be left with P on this side. And then on the other side, we have 112 divided by 320. That gives us 0.35. So they want to know the percent. Now we do have 0.35 equals P, but remember that is as a decimal. We want to turn 0.35 into a percent. To do that, you're going to take the decimal point and you move it twice to the right. So that will be 35. Invisible decimal back here, but then since there's nothing behind it, that's all we need. So we'll finish up by saying Haley has produced 35% of the total tickets.